Internet. I'm Christopher Peterson, and you're listening to the Nerdy XP Gamecast. This week I'm hanging out with Kenny
Yo.
and Alex.
What's up, everybody?
Each week, members of the blogging community get together and go through the top entertainment headlines in gaming and discuss a rousing debate during our topic of the week. The point of this? To start a conversation and help you level up your game IQ. We're going to jump straight into PlayStation news this week. The latest firmware hit today for the PS4. Kind of some of the big features of this is more sharing options. Videos can directly go online to Dailymotion. The ability to delete any games that you played that you have 0% on your trophy list, or even hide trophies. If you're embarrassed that you played SingStar, Hannah Montana, or whatever. So I downloaded it today, really seamless. I cleaned up all my 0%. It made me dread all the games that I have one bronze trophy in, but still glad to get all those zeros out of there. What about you, Kenny?
Yeah, I'm glad to see finally the ability to get rid of 0% trophies. Because I always thought that just looked kind of dumb. Like, your friend pops in his game, you play like a couple rounds of whatever fighting game, and then he goes and you're like, well, now I've just got 0% on this game. It makes it look pretty dumb. But since it's been like a while now since I turned off trophy notifications on my Vita and PS4 and everything else, so I don't even see trophies anymore.
Yeah, I went through trophies a lot, and the game that broke me was Diablo 3. And not because it was hard. It's a time-consuming, trophy list. But I got every trophy except for one, which is to pick up 1 million units of gold on the ground. And I'd played this game for 35, 40 hours, and I'd only picked up 300,000. And I was like, I cannot sit here for another 70 hours just to, platinum this and get the 100%. And then since then, I've just kind of stopped the whole trophy crazy hunt. Another thing about the firmware update, which I didn't really think about, Polygon did a great article on, was saying that it makes it easier for disabled gamers. There's a new way to change the button layout on the controller. So this way, if you're playing a game, let's say you can only use one hand, you could map L1 and L2 to be whatever you needed it to be. So you can literally change the control schematics to fit your hand or your playstyle or what you're capable of easier. I think this is a huge win for the community, and I know that people who do have those kind of challenges are definitely thankful for the opportunity to maybe expand their library.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool that they've done something like this. It's also good for people, or for, I guess, specific games that don't allow mapping of the controls, because now any game could play however you want to play it on the controller. So I think that's also cool for even people who aren't disabled.
Yeah, and this is by no means the same, but anytime I play a Street Fighter game, I always have to move the heavy to square and X, because those are the attacks that I use most often, and hitting the shoulders is just always so much more inconvenient. So just having this option for everything, makes it easier for everybody.
Yeah, that makes sense. Or there's a couple shooter games I like to play, but now on PS4 a lot of them they've switched to being on the bottom on the triggers, which I prefer them on the top because it's actually faster to click them in. At least I feel like makes me feel better about clicking them faster. But I think stuff like that is pretty useful, for everyone, honestly.
Now, here's something I didn't think about. Is the game smart enough? And I'm going to go with no, that for tutorial sections, if you, started really messing with the control schemes, that it would pop up and, let you know, hey, L1 does this, because of your crazy mapping? Or is it still going to kind of show the default controls and you're going to have to remember what you switched everything around to?
Probably is going to show the default controls. I've played a couple games like that where it's you mess around with the controls in the early beginning of the game, It's just like any other console. I've done this, like you mess around with controls, and then you start playing the game, and the tutorials are telling you things, you're like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, oh, it's because I mapped the controls weird.
Yeah. Other bit of PlayStation news: God of War 3 remastered. This is coming to the PS4 on July 14th. God of War is the series as a whole is one of Sony's go-to remastered games. And we saw God of War 1 and 2 on PS3. Then we saw the PSP games come to PS3. Then we saw all of them bundled together in another collection on PS3. And now they're kind of up-resing God of War 3. They've already said that they're not going to do the other ones. This is just going to be a standalone. What are your guys' thoughts on, if not God of War 3 specifically, just kind of the culture of remasters that we're kind of seeing right now? Okay. Moving on to cross-platform kind of news. This will affect Sony and Microsoft. Speaking of remasters, Batman Arkham Asylum and City is getting a remastered. But it's not coming out until the holidays, according to IGN Italy, which seems like a really odd choice. Typically, I feel like these remastered games, one of their strengths is to remind players of what they loved about these games, or give people who jumped consoles a chance to play it or skip to the generation altogether. So by releasing it after Arkham Knight, I feel like they're kind of playing it backwards.
They sure are.
And then
it's a marketing loss too. It doesn't make sense to have the prequels come after the sequel if you somehow missed out on playing those. Now's your chance.
Yeah.
After.
Yeah, because when the Asylum City Remastered comes out, it's gonna be the holidays. Batman Arkham Knight will be 4 or 5 months old. It'll probably be cheaper than these HD re-releases. So just kind of odd timing on that. Speaking of Batman Arkham Knight, it got delayed until June 23rd. Its original release date was June 2nd, so we're looking at a delay of about 3 weeks.
I say that's fine. It's just quality control, is all it is.
Yeah, this isn't that surprising. A lot of AAA games have gone under the knife for a few weeks in the last few years. Think about BioShock Infinite getting delayed from February to March, or The Last of Us getting delayed from May to June. Sometimes those little extra pushes are what it takes to make a good game greater.
I agree with you. I've been hard on Arkham Knight for its original release strategy, and I stand by that decision that it was complete crap. The way this game was supposed to be coming out, I think October of 2014. But I hold them no ill will for this. It's still 3 months out. They didn't wait till the last minute. They acknowledged it. It's only a couple weeks. Like this is when delays, like this is how delays should happen. Just kind of a retooling of the date as we get closer. A game that's probably going to get delayed a crap ton more before we actually see it on shelves. Final Fantasy 15. Recently, one of the developers and creators came out and said, speaking honestly, an all-male cast just feels more appropriate. What are you guys' thoughts on kind of this statement and how it got phrased, and kind of maybe some of the potential backlash that you'll see for going down this road?
I think it's fine.
Yeah,
Honestly, I think he meant the quote or I think when he said that, he more meant it's right for this game as opposed to just like in any game.
Yeah, that quote's sexist, guy. No, I just think that what he meant to say was an all-male cast is more marketable, and this is Square Enix having this, probably mandating this from above, that they go with a safe cast of characters to try and increase sales in an increasingly tough to break even market on a game that's been in development for 10 plus years.
You might be right, and I definitely don't discredit your theory. I just hope that it's not exactly like that. I hope it's not that cynical. I want to take him at his face value and just he being honest. Like Final Fantasy 15 is a story of these four friends who are on a journey together, and to an extent, adding a girl into that does create a different dynamic. Like think of you hanging out with your best friends, if they're all males, but then hanging out with a group of your guy friends, and then when somebody brings their girlfriend or brings another female friend, it instantly changes the dynamic.
Is it any more different a dynamic than Final Fantasy X or Final Fantasy VIII or Final Fantasy IX? All of those had casts of girls and guys. So why not this one?
I think the
what
point
kind of
it,
story are they telling?
I feel like they are trying to tell a story of road trip and broness, which I know I'm now painting myself into a corner rather quickly. And you're right, and I think that and I almost think that because of the strength of the female characters in the Final Fantasy series, that maybe we shouldn't throw stones at them so quickly. I mean, they did just spend the last trilogy having a very strong female cast of characters and protagonists. I mean, Lightning was the only playable character in the last game.
Well, remember, Final Fantasy X-2 also had an all-girl cast, and nobody said anything about that. Of course, there was no internet echo chamber back in that day. People just had message boards and chat rooms. And now there's so many more tools for people who are vocal about this to shout, shall we say.
Yeah, it's definitely, at the very least, I think that I'll definitely agree that this is a terrible PR move. It's a terrible way to just kind of go out there and promote the game or mention it. They are going to get murdered on this, and it's going to be spun every which way possible.
But not as terrible as the PR move coming up.
And that PR move mentioned is Konami and Kojima's breakup. We talked about this a little bit last week, but more news came to light. Alex, kind of, what are your thoughts on this? Why are you kind of upset about it already?
Well, my first reaction was I was upset. I thought it was insulting that Konami's wiping Kojima's name from all the marketing materials, which is how this all came to be an issue for people. Discovered on NeoGAF, they did a compare contrast image of images from the Metal Gear Solid collection and Phantom Pain and Ground Zeroes with and without the title line, the strap line, a game by Hideo Kojima. And that got people riled up. So Konami made a statement that Kojima is not going anywhere. He's going to be on the game until the finish. And this also came at the time when GameSpot got the scoop that Kojima Productions had limited contact with Konami, that they were having their email restricted, their phone calls restricted. All sorts of restrictions were placed on their communications. I'm of several minds of this. I think Kojima has said forever that he wants to stop making Metal Gear, but they just will not let him. But apparently a power struggle came to be between Kojima Productions and Konami. So Kojima is probably going to leave Konami at the end of Metal Gear Solid 5 and go be a free agent. And Konami says that they're going to continue the series after without him. I just think the whole move I think it's kind of insulting to Kojima, and I think it's gonna hurt people's enthusiasm for the game coming up because this PR move left a bad taste in their mouth to try and pretend that Kojima doesn't exist. And he hasn't said much of anything except a joint statement with them, and he hasn't tweeted in days, and Konami canceled the latest episode of the Kojima podcast. So I'm curious about your guys' thoughts.
I said this like Kojima is Konami in so many respects now. Konami's not the strong publisher that they once were. They have Metal Gear, Castlevania, and Pro Evolution Soccer. They're not doing crap with Castlevania lately that's worth anything. Pro Evolution Soccer is a yearly franchise that continually does worse than FIFA. And I mean, they were so desperate that they released Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes because they needed to generate revenue. I think
Oh yeah,
they. Oh, go on.
that's why they split that up, was to get to recover their loss on this very expensive game.
So I mean, with that, I think that they really need Kojima. I think that they're going to be hurting. But I think it's probably like a blessing in disguise for Kojima. He's wanted to get out of it ever since I think Metal Gear Solid 2. He's mentioned that he's done with the franchise, and and I know this is like blasphemy to say, but if they're gonna keep making Metal Gear games, maybe it's good for the franchise too. Like they should not do a Metal Gear Solid 6. They should do a Metal Gear reboot, and kind of just get that franchise a little less out of its like crazy wackadoo situations that it's kind of found itself in. Like I mean, the continuity on that and kind of the overarching story is a complete mess.
And let's not forget also about Konami. They purchased Hudson, and they're just sitting on all those Hudson IPs. There's so much to unpack from this, I know. Konami's sort of dead inside. That when Kojima leaves, nobody will care about them anymore.
And I mean, Kojima was more than Metal Gear. I mean, he had Silent Hills, which nobody's mentioned.
A lot of people are upset about that if he's not directing it anymore. Guillermo del Toro is kind of cursed in the gaming industry.
I may feel bad for him. I mean, the other one, Insane, he teamed up with THQ. So I mean, like that fell apart through no fault of his own, and he's kind of in that same situation right now.
He's had more canceled movies than Steven Spielberg.
Kenny, do you care about Konami and Kojima breaking up?
I think it's probably best for Kojima. I think we'll probably see some good stuff coming out of him doing something else other than Metal Gear.
Can you imagine a Kojima Kickstarter, perhaps? People will flock to it.
Yeah, people
just
will be
like
all over that.
With Tim Schafer.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, like you're absolutely right. And Kickstarter's out there, and I believe in capitalism and I believe in the free market. So with that said, I should believe in Kickstarter because it's just fans giving money where they want, and that's how capitalism should work. But I hate Kickstarter at this point. Like I think it's wrong. I think it's all the risk is on the donators and all the reward is on the creators. And I think that they should have to have some skin in the game. I think that especially the Tim Schafers and the Kojima and these higher profile people who are asking for hundreds of thousands of dollars and getting millions of dollars. Like I don't know, and I don't know how much money they have in their own pockets. But if they believe in this vision, they should have been willing to go to a bank and get a loan, or find an investor or somebody. Like they should have enough clout to be able to do that without kind of asking their fans to bankroll their own private project.
I'm sure the king of cool Kojima might be able to get an investor. He knows a lot about business at this point, having worked under a giant corporation for many years. He's been on Metal Gear Solid for 25 years at this point.
And that's another thing, like, nobody's ever really kind of thought about this. And I hope that Kojima gets paid really well. I mean, like, Metal Gear is his brainchild. What if he just quits? Like, what if he has enough money saved up and, he's like, I'm just kind of done with this industry?
I can see him retiring, like Masahiro Sakurai just retire because he's tired of it. Gets hand cramps during Metal Gear 5, can't do it anymore.
All right. Moving on.
Strange.
Go on.
Oh, I was just saying, strange days these are.
Strange indeed. But I don't know. I mean, I think it's good. I think it's good for the industry to change and get new talent and learn from previous people. I think that sometimes we do get too infatuated with our own heroes and stars within the industry. As every franchise does, like as every medium does, like we get attached to these names, not necessarily what they're creating in the moment. Which I think Kojima's great. I think he's brilliant. I think he's done amazing things, and that's not a commentary on his work or just just kind of more of a jump ball in general. Last bit of kind of cross-platform news. Supposedly, there's going to be a new Guitar Hero. This announcement is coming in April, according to Polygon. They do, reference that this is after the Harmonix Rock Band, but I personally can't imagine that it's reactionary. I think that both of these companies were analyzing the data and realized that there was a need or an ask for this in the community. Maybe this is just kind of like how Armageddon and Deep Impact come out at the same time, or two Snow White movies come out at the same time. Moving on to Microsoft news. Dragon Age Inquisition, Jaws of Hakon is available for Xbox One and PC right this second. But if you have a PlayStation 4 or a PS3 or Xbox 360, you're going to have to wait. And we don't know how long. Kenny, do you have any thoughts on kind of this age of DLC exclusivity or timed exclusiveness?
I think it's becoming more commonplace, but I'd honestly prefer if everything came out at the same time, but obviously some money has gone between hands.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point, and in some ways, I almost find this more frustrating, and this makes no logical sense. This is almost more frustrating than just an exclusive, because it feels like you are reminded time and time again that you bought it on the wrong, in quotes, platform. Where if it's an exclusive, you just never see it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I bet it sucks for people the rare amount of people who did buy both platforms, because say most of your friends are playing on PS4, but you've got an Xbox One, and the update or the DLC comes out for Xbox One first. You can be pretty disappointed that you can't play with all your friends. You may play with one or two other people that have the Xbox One, but it's I have both systems. You'd feel pretty gypped. Or I don't have both systems, but that person that the example does.
No, I understand what you're saying, and yeah, I think this is just something that we're gonna have to deal with in modern games, and it just feels like it's getting worse, more so than it gets better. I mean, it's a good marketing strategy, so companies are going to deploy it. I think that Destiny and maybe to an extent PlayStation sold better because those two franchises marketed themselves together all the time. A franchise that I think I can safely say no one expected to see on a Microsoft console is Rosetta Stone. Rosetta Stone is going to be available, and it's going to teach English and Spanish. Two very popular languages. I think Spanish is the most taught language in high school here in America. Is there any language that you guys would want to see on here?
I guess Japanese would be cool to see. That's one thing I'd definitely like to see in the future.
Alex, is there ever a language that you wanted to learn, or?
Oh, I'm hoping that I can get better at learning Japanese.
Yeah,
if that's what you mean.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that probably just comes from our love of games and that culture and that world starting in Japan, and I know a lot of that development is moving stateside, but I mean still so many of the roots did come from Japan.
Oh
Last
yeah, totally. That's why we have Shovel Knight.
Man, I cannot wait for Shovel Knight on the PlayStation coming out this April. I've been looking forward to that. That was one thing that I was really jealous of my friends who had a Wii U when it came out. Shameless plug. If you want to hear more about Shovel Knight, I did an interview with the Shovel Knight programmer David D'Angelo, which you can check out on this channel wherever you're listening to this.
I thought that was pretty cool. I think more people should honestly see that. I'm
Thank you.
surprised it hasn't gone around more, honestly.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm definitely glad to hear that. Glad you enjoyed it. Moving on for Microsoft, Games with Gold, which is Microsoft's kind of competitor to PS Plus, is going to get 6 games in April, which normally they give out 3. 6 is the same number that Sony gives. So, I mean, this could be them trying to highlight and compete more with that number for number. We don't know what Sony's April release is going to be, but I'm going to go through these 6 games for Microsoft in April, and they're good. Like, this would be the best month that, if these same games were given out on PlayStation, it'd be the best month that PlayStation had in like over a year. We have for Xbox One, Pool Nation FX and Child of Light. And then on Xbox 360, God of War Judgment, Assassin's Creed 4, Terraria, and Army of Two: The Devil's Cartel. So I'm sure these games aren't like, God of War Judgment and Assassin's Creed 4 have been out for a while.
Gears of War, the 2 Gal games.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Gears of War sounds fantastic. Pool Hustle, not so much.
But I mean, you're looking at, if you bought these new, which maybe that's not fair to say because it's April. I mean, you're looking at like, I don't know, $150, $200 worth of software here. So I don't know. If you're if you own a Microsoft console and you are on the fence, I think you should definitely sign up for Xbox Live in April and pick these games up. Moving on to Nintendo, Pokemon Orchestra is coming out. So this will be kind of a world tour featuring Pokemon music. Previously, Nintendo allowed this to happen for the Zelda music. It's going to be called Pokemon Symphonic Evolutions. Alex, have you any interest in this? Have you ever been to one?
Yeah, they started doing it last year as sort of a soft launch, and the first place they played was Washington, D.C., and I got to see the very first performance. It was actually coincided during the Pokemon World Championships, and I happened to be in D.C. for the concert specifically, but I thought, hey, kill 2 birds with 1 stone, and I got to go see the World Championships along with the concert. And it was great. You got to hear orchestral remixes of all the game music, and I couldn't have been happier. It's a fan full of Poke fans. An audience full of Poke fans, I should say.
What visuals accompany it? Just out of curiosity. Like, is it just
game
music?
footage, still images? Before the concert starts, it's funny, they had Who's That Pokemon, and the answers everybody knew because why not? They were the most basic Who's That Pokemons you could have done. It was a laugh. It was a laugh riot and a half.
Go on.
I don't know if they'll duplicate this for this run of the concert, but they had some very special encores and finales with the first concert. That is, they did a live sing-along to the Pokemon thing, where the singer flubbed the first line of the second verse. They had a guest appearance by series director Junichi Masuda, and they also sang a lyrical version of the end credits song from Pokemon X and Y, if any of you guys are familiar. Pokemon X and Y ended with an anthem that had lyrics on screen, but no vocals accompanying them. And this was the first time they actually put vocals to it, which is really cool.
Yeah,
they did autographs. They did autographs with Junichi Masuda after the show, and there was a huge line for that, but they would only let you sign stuff that you purchased at the concert.
That sounds really rough. Like, I don't think that's. I mean, like you have to buy tickets. You're obviously a fan. I mean, that seems like kind of a dick move, to be honest.
People were complicit though if they wanted to do it.
I'm glad you brought up the Pokemon thing. That's actually what I was going to ask. Because I didn't know how the rights for something like that would work. If they could
Oh,
only
the
stick
rights
with.
work simply. It's all run by the Pokemon Company. They make a distinction, but all owned by Nintendo.
All right. Anything else about so the Pokemon World Championship? You mentioned that. How was that like live?
Oh, how was that? It was fantastic. It was Pokemon X and Y for the competition, and it was the convention center full of Pokemon fans, and we all had a raucous time of it. This year they're going to be held in Boston if anybody listening is interested. Mid-August specifically. You could possibly go up there and take part in the last chance qualifiers.
I tried to get into competitive Pokemon. I started reading Smogon University and downloaded the simulator and the apps. And like, if I won half my matches, I considered that like a really good day. Like that is a tough environment to like really understand all the nitty gritty and all the statistics and likelihood and chances that those guys number crunch all the time.
Yeah, if you haven't been playing Pokemon for years, it's going to be really hard to be accessible for you.
Speaking of Pokemon, Smash Brothers for Wii U and Nintendo DS, YouTube DLC coming soon.
Very, very soon. In the words of Matsuda-san. Actually, Sakurai-san. Matsuda also directed me to a long time ago.
So correct me if I'm wrong. Mewtwo is only available if you bought both versions of the game, right?
For now. Later he will be paid DLC, but the reason they're doing Club Nintendo exclusivity at this time is, of course, carrot on the stick to reward the people who bought games early.
I don't know. I can't imagine one character being enough incentive to buy the game twice. Like I feel like you either would or you wouldn't. So it just seems like an odd. But I mean, I guess for your super fans, they're excited about it.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's an incentive to get Mewtwo is an incentive to buy both versions and register them. However, I think that the very soon part of the release is very true because on March 31st, Club Nintendo will no longer let you register games, and so this is the right time to do it. It's April or May. Sakurai said that Mewtwo is pretty much done, and I think they're just holding it for marketing reasons. It's greener that way.
Oh yeah, I mean, I prefer to see this. I prefer, and I've talked about this before. I want to see a shorter news cycle. I'd rather them, kind of tease the announcement and then release it 2 weeks from now, as opposed to mention it 8 months from now.
Mm-hmm.
And then speaking of that, other end of the spectrum, Paper Mario potential leak for 1,000 Year Door playing on a 3DS. You guys both saw this. You brought it to my attention. What are your thoughts?
I think it's fake.
Shots fired.
Especially because it was the exact same way as the Rayman leak. It was taken down by the uploader as opposed to a copyright claim, which would actually matter if that was the case. But because it's just by the uploader, it seems like a bad attempt to try to like trick people into thinking it was taken down by Nintendo or something.
I agree with you, Kenny. This screened Rayman leak copycat. Any thoughts on it, Alex? Or
Oh yeah, it's like it looked really convincing, but don't forget people can do really good leaks these days through Photoshop and After Effects. I'm just curious, why put Paper Mario: The 1,000-Year Door on 3DS when Sticker Star exists? Nintendo's not just going to suddenly do GameCube ports, are they? They have GameCube Virtual Console as an opportunity on Wii U, and they've never chosen to take advantage of it.
I mean,
And
I
that's why they don't have enough content.
think yeah.
Because of reasons.
Yeah, I think that's why. I think that's why they chose Thousand Year Door was to kind of hint at the fact that GameCube on 3DS and kind of get that ball rolling and see what type of excitement they could drum up. Moving on to PC news, Halo Online. But so this game is free to play, multiplayer only, and Russia only.
So I guess I probably won't be playing it then.
I mean, this screams Call of Duty Online, which is available only in China. So, I mean, that game was profitable. That game's still around. I mean, like, some of these countries get test market games that we just don't get. And then last bit of PC news. Oh man, I should have entered this later. But anyway, Kickstarter recently funded a new MMO called Crowfall. It raised $1.8 million. I am shocked. People out there aren't even willing to buy MMO games that already exist. And these guys managed to raise nearly $2 million based upon their concept and like initial footages.
Well, that's the first I've heard of this. That's really surprising. It's a good thing to hear because clearly they know how to sell their MMO and others don't. Big companies do not know how to sell their MMO. And those games get shut down within a year.
Yeah, I mean they say on their Kickstarter page it's like Game of Thrones meets EVE Online. So I mean that's definitely a powerful image to try and draw into people's minds. I hope it works out for them. I hope everybody's happy. I hope they can deliver on the promises that they made. All right. What have you guys been playing this past week? What have you been playing?
Monster Hunter.
Monster Hunter?
Never ends.
So at what point do you
I've
think
got 70 hours on it right now. And that's not even close to done.
I was gonna say, what's your end goal? Like, is it?
I guess play it until I can't beat the next monster.
Okay.
That was basically the end goal. The last two games.
What have you been playing, Alex?
Oh, tons. I've been playing Monster Hunter 2, TOO, and I've been playing the 2013 reboot of Tomb Raider.
Oh, is this your first time going through that?
Yes.
How do you like it?
Actually, I'm enjoying it so far. It's kind of like Uncharted, but it's also a lot more exploratory. There's even more collectibles everywhere, and it's got this waypoint system to help you get to them all, even while you're following the linear story. So that's cool. It's narratively a little schizophrenic. If you played the game, you know why. But I'm looking forward to playing more of it and hopefully finishing it.
I agree with everything you said. I think that was a really succinct description of some of the game's successes and some of its flaws.
Yeah, mechanically the game is fantastic. Narratively, I'll just have to wait and see.
Anything else that you want to call out?
I'm still playing Pokemon Shuffle every few minutes of every several hours.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that sounds like my Hearthstone. Like, I'll play that every day to make sure I get those daily quests.
Yeah, like Pokemon Shuffle is offering daily Pokemon as an event for a little while, and then they're probably going to rotate in new ones.
The only thing that I had a chance to play outside of Hearthstone this week was Tales from the Borderlands Episode 2. It's more Tales from the Borderlands. It's funny in parts, it drags in others. Still overall enjoyable. Ending feels a little rushed. And there is one of the most gruesome scenes I feel like I've ever had to witness.
So it's Borderlands. You say it's the Borderlands game?
Yeah, the Telltale Borderlands.
Will it make you laugh, and will it make you cry at the same time?
I've definitely laughed. I haven't cried yet, but maybe once I get to that crushing episode 5, it'll bring it home.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
Main topic or just a super glorified news story, depending on how you look at it. Twitch president went out and said that he wants consoles to have 2-year life cycles. He specifically said that this should be the last generation that Sony and Microsoft put out, that the long life cycle is bad for the environment, and that these manufacturers should readjust their outlook and develop more like set-top boxes or mobile. What are your thoughts on this, Alex?
Well, he certainly has a point to make, which is the longer the cycle goes on, while the install base does seem to grow from that, it also is bad for developers, because developers, they want to develop on the most high techy tech material possible, and that's why they're happy to have PS4 and Xbox One right now. But he's also thinking that if they adjust the 2-year cycles, then people will buy more hardware more frequently. Just like how Apple has their success, for example, is they can bill consumers in a mass way every couple of years with shiny new things instead of making them wait 5 years for a new handphone, a handset, if you will. I think that's partly where he's coming from. Just better for the business.
Maybe I'm not looking at it right, but I just look at like the games that came out on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 near the end of the life cycle, and Last of Us, Grand Theft Auto 5, these games were graphically light years ahead of what came out 3-4 years ago. So I mean, I almost felt like it took developers 7 years to get the maximum they could out of the console. And maybe that's not the point. Maybe if they had newer technology every 2 years, they would have been able to get there in 4 or 6 years. But I don't know. It just felt like they could still squeeze so much power and capabilities out of the consoles that like I just wonder if we did have this like quick rotation, if we would start to lose sight of that.
Though to be fair, you did start to see sales numbers stagnate after 2008, which was arguably probably the peak year for the industry in terms of raw numbers. That was the same year Guitar Hero was still big. The same year that the Wii Fit came out. There's only so high you can go if you're trying to expand your audience to grow sales numbers like that.
Kenny, what do you think of his quote or his theory?
I think Twitch should go on a 2-year cycle or something. I think we should see someone else show up, especially after the security breach. But honestly, with the consoles, I think it's better the way it is now. And I don't want to get a new console every couple of years just to have the newest graphics or whatever. That's not what makes a game. The graphics don't make it. Technically they do, but like that's not what drives the game.
Yeah, and I mean, I think one thing for me to really think about in analyzing this is let's think of the source of the guy who's saying this. I don't know this for a fact, but I think that Twitch benefits from new consoles because people watch more Let's Play videos because they want to see what the new graphics look like, what the new toys look like. So if we saw quicker turnarounds and life cycles, maybe Twitch would get a bigger audience and get these boosts every time that a new piece of hardware came out. I almost want to say it's in his benefit for new consoles to come out. But regardless of what we think of his opinion, how long do you want this current generation of life cycle to last? Alex?
I'm wondering if it can last for the standard 5 years, and I'm wondering if the marketplace will allow it to survive for 5 years, since there's so many more choices now than there used to be. Choices for entertainment dollars.
So right now, just put in context, we're at about a year and a half. So you think in the 3.5 years, like it'll be kind of forced out, and we'll need to see a PlayStation 5 and an Xbox 2?
Oh, that's too soon. I think that 5 years would be apropos for what is currently a $400 console. That's enough time for them to lower the costs of the materials they manufacture with and do price drops and grow the install base so that developers can reach more people. And so that's a good, suitable amount of time. 5 years.
What about you, Kenny? Do you agree with 5 years?
I don't know. I don't really know an exact time limit. I think I've always just kind of felt like it takes as long as it takes for the new technology to show up and for it to be a big enough upgrade for it to be worth it. But I don't know for sure how long I'd say this generation should last.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you were to, I feel like 5 years sounds good, but I feel like I'd almost rather have like the 6 or 7 like we did before, just because we're a year and a half in, and I know that these consoles are good, and I know their user interfaces are better, and the controllers are better, and the features are better, but like sometimes, and maybe it's just I'm looking at it through rose-colored lenses. I don't feel like they're that much better than what came before them, as far as like graphics and the actual games. So I wonder, if it's gonna take just that like another year until we're like really blown away. So then just to lose that after 2 years after that just seems like it's such a quick turnaround. And I wonder if they'll just kind of be chasing more stuff.
That'd be a cut and run right there. If you abandon the people who bought a $400 PS4 after 2 years, that's not enough time for them to pay for that console to pay for itself, so to speak, with games and so forth.
I mean, like, how do you feel? I mean, I know we're focusing on Sony and Microsoft right now. What about Nintendo? I mean, they've announced the NX, and I know the release date for that is anybody's wild guess. But I mean, they're probably going to have the Wii U have a really short life cycle.
If the NX comes out in 2016, that'd be true. If it comes out in 2017, the Wii will have had a pretty normal life cycle, though. On par with GameCube and N64.
Thank you out there for listening. If you guys liked what you heard, please like this episode or leave a review or leave a comment. If you didn't like what you heard, let us know what you'd like to be different or join the show. If you want to hear more from me, my name is Chris, and I can be followed on Twitter at NerdyXP. I also have a website called NerdyXP where all my blogs are, or you can follow me on my IGN if you prefer to join that community. If you want to hear more from Alex,
I'm on Twitter at AlexIRESQ, and I'm also writing on my IGN, Always Nintendo, and Current Digital Magazine, among other things.
And if you want to hear more from Kenny, you can follow him at
On Twitter, I'm at Baseballpatter, and I do some anime reviews on my IGN.
Any what's your favorite anime that you're watching right now? Not to put you on the spot.
Oh, my favorite ever is a certain scientific railgun, but if you're asking right now, I'm only watching one at a time, but I just started watching Death Note, just as kind of a side thing. It's been pretty fun.
Yeah, I really like Death Note for its first major story arc. But then, anyway, you'll get there. Enjoy it. Thank you, Alex.
No problem.
Thank you, Kenny.
Yep.
And thank you out there for listening. I hope that you guys enjoyed this week's episode and that we were able to help you with your game IQ. Level up, friends.